Three, two, one.
Voice with Julia, change your voice, change your life.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Voice with Julia's Technique Talks, where we demystify conversations surrounding vocal technique with behind-the-scenes access to great singers of today. I'm your host, Julia Radosh, and with me here today is Jennifer Larmore, one of the best mezzo-sopranos that America has. We're so happy to have you here with us, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Julia. It's my pleasure.
And I'm sure you need no introduction, but I do want to read your amazing accomplishments for our audience because it really is astounding. So Jennifer is an American mezzo-soprano with a wide-ranging repertoire, having begun with coloratura roles from the Baroque and bel canto, then adding music from the Romantic and contemporary periods. She began her career at Opera de Nice in 1986 with Mozart's La Clemenza di Tito, and went on to sing at virtually every major opera house in the world, including the Metropolitan Opera, La Scala, Paris Opera, Tokyo, Berlin Deutsche Oper, and Covent Garden. She is a two-time Grammy Award winner who has recorded widely for the Teldec, RCA, Harmonia Mundi, Deutsche Grammophon, Arabesque, Opera Rara, Bayer, Naive, Chandos, VAI and Cedille labels in over 100 CDs to date, as well as numerous DVDs. Oh my goodness, 100. I probably have about at least half of those, I am certain.
Yeah, but the thing is, I may be arguably the most recorded mezzo of all time, but you can't find any of my CDs, you know? So you have something, hold on to it.
Oh yes, I have those. I will bring them out for you later.
I may be getting in touch with you because, you know, I'm running out of all of mine now, you know, and I can't find them anywhere.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, we got to add that line to your bio. I'm going to sneak that in there. With her frequent collaborator, Antoine Paloc, she has made many international recital tours at major cities throughout the world, as well as all major American venues. Symphonic repertoire plays a large role in this mezzo's career, and she has enjoyed great collaborations with world orchestras under the direction of Muti, Bernstein, Runekels, Mazur, Barenboim, Boning, Mazel, and Osawa, just to name a few. Jennifer's repertoire has expanded to include new roles such as Marie in Berg's masterpiece Wozzeck, Kostelniczka in Janáček's Jenůfa, in which the DVD of her performance at Berlin Deutsche Oper, conducted by Runekels, was nominated for a Grammy. That's super cool.
Yes.
Lady Macbeth in Verdi's Macbeth, and Eboli in the French version of Don Carlos. Adding to her growing list of new repertoire, she has recently debuted the roles of Mère Marie in Dialogues of the Carmelites, Elvira in Mozart's Don Giovanni, the title role of La Belle Hélène, Anna I in Kurt Weill's The Seven Deadly Sins, La Dama in Hindemith's Cardillac, Fidalma in Il Matrimonio Segreto, Marcellina in Le Nozze di Figaro, and Herodias in Salome.
Oh my God, I'm exhausted.
We're almost there. Hang tight.
Go on.
Hang tight. We're getting to the good stuff now.
Oh God.
In 2021, Jennifer will sing Geneviève in a new production of Pelléas et Mélisande in Parma, and she will also debut Public Opinion in Orpheus in the Underworld for the Komische Oper in Berlin. Throughout her career, Jennifer Larmore has garnered awards and recognition. In 1994, she won the prestigious Richard Tucker Award. In 1996, she sang the Olympic hymn at the closing ceremonies of the Olympics in Atlanta. In 2002, Madame Larmore was awarded the Chevalier des Arts et des Lettres, yes, okay, from the French government in recognition of her contributions to the world of music. In 2010, she was inducted into the Georgia Music Hall of Fame in her home state of Georgia. In addition to her many activities, travels, performances, and causes, author Jennifer Larmore is working on books that will bring a wider public to the love of opera. Her book, Una Voce, is available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and Lulu.com, and explores the world and psychology of the performer. It's awesome. Miss Larmore is widely known for teaching and giving master classes in many places, including most recently at New York's Manhattan School of Music, the new Teatro Nuovo at SUNY Purchase College in New York, Atlanta Opera, Kennesaw State University, the Philip Jaruski Academy in Paris, École Normale, Luxembourg, and on Zoom for the Kiefersfelden Masterclasses and Utah Valley University. Miss Larmore lives in Paris with her husband and little opera dog, Buffy. I love Buffy. I had to put that in there.
Of course, you know why we named her Buffy.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, obviously.
Exactly.
Of course. I won't tell you, but that's my password for a lot of things. So there we go.
You just told me. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I just told YouTube. That's even worse. Well, we are just so thrilled to have you here. I want to just give a little bit of my background in regards to you to our viewers here, because you literally inspired me to become an opera singer. I used to go to Barnes and You're sorry. What has my life come to?
Please forgive me.
I remember going to Barnes and Noble, and I would, kind of go up and down. This is when I was first starting Caro Mio Ben, all of the 24 Italian arias, and I saw this just beautiful face of radiance on this album, and it was actually, I believe the album was My Native Land. I think this is the one. I can't remember exactly which one.
There's a bridge on the cover of that one.
Okay, so it's not that one. It's the one. It's the one I could see your face clearly. I think it might be the Arias album with like Una Voce and these. Okay, yes. And I picked it up and I was like, I don't know who this is, but we're getting this today. And I listened to it in the car and I said, that is it. Oh my God. Now, I did try to imitate you for several years. So
that's so sweet.
Dopo notte, I would put you on in the car and just jam out.
Oh my God, that's too sweet to hear. Thank you for saying that. You've made my day.
So needless to say, you are a huge idol of mine, and I'm sure many other singers out there. So I want to jump at the chance to get to know a little bit about your amazing technique, because it truly is. And to have added these kind of roles now into your career is just really astounding. So it's a testament to how you sing and how well you sing.
Thank you.
So I'd love to just kind of dive in. And what I want to know from you is, when it comes to singing for yourself, what do you feel, and you can even say at different periods of time, but what do you feel is the most essential element for you and what you've had to focus on as a singer to sing your best? Like, is there one particular aspect of technique that you maybe had to work at the hardest and that you have to be attentive to the most?
I can tell you that when I started out singing, I had a very refined, sweet, natural voice. Not a lot of vocal problems, did not need a lot of technical help. It was a very natural, good voice, but I had studied at school in Westminster Choir College with a wonderful teacher, Dr. Robert McIver, and he really helped solidify the things that were kind of out there, to begin with, and also the way I was thinking as well. Now, then I went on to study 3 years of nothing but technique with John Bullock, the father of Sandy Bullock. Yes, he was wonderful in really, really bringing strength, I think, to my voice. When you're a baby and you cry, you are heard all over the house. Those muscles are the vocal cords are such that you can be heard wherever you are. But then we are told to be quiet. We are told don't cry, don't make noise, and that sort of thing. So we lose a little bit of that as well as we go along in life. Now, John Bullock, taught me how to really tap in to a very natural, good technique that worked for me individually. And that's how I teach as well. And I think I might have coined a phrase when I say quantum teaching. I'm not sure, but my way of teaching is very, very detailed for that particular person, down to the shape of their face, the bones in the face, the position of the mouth, the lips, the tongue, the teeth, everything. So yeah, that's what I mean by quantum teaching. And I didn't learn that from Dr. MacIver or from John, but I learned it throughout my life, because as a woman in this business, your body changes as you go along. I mean, we've got hormones, we've got husbands, we've got ex-husbands, we've got travel, we've got kids, we've got all kinds of things that play havoc, wreak havoc with our bodies. And let's just face it, our instrument is inside of our bodies. Mm-hmm. And we have to figure out how to protect that instrument and how to nurture it and how to let it grow naturally and beautifully and not manipulatively, mm-hmm. which is something we'll talk about, throughout all of these changes. So for me personally, as I went through all of the changes in life, in thought, in voice, I still had this instrument that grew with me because of the way I was thinking about it as well. Mm-hmm. Now, you asked a specific question. Was there anything technically that I had to work on really hard? For me, it was more of the hard things were easy and the easy things were hard. Give me any kind of explosive coloratura or something like that. I could do it and not even think about it. You could wake me up at 2 a.m. and I could do it. Mm-hmm. But give me Voi che sapete, or one of those art songs in Italian that you were talking about earlier that everybody gives to a young singer. And it's not that I couldn't do it, it's just that I had such a hard time with it. It was too simple.
Yeah.
So for me, most of it has been not so much the technical part of the voice, but the technical part of thinking about my voice. Mm-hmm. I guess that's another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it is part of the same conversation, because I guess when you have these simpler pieces or simpler sections of music, it kind of puts a magnifying glass on certain things that we can adjust, like turning the brightness, the darkness, turning this. And so it really gives you more options. Whereas if there's fireworks and big things happening, you really can kind of do it maybe one or two ways and that's it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other things. So you can get into hot water, I guess, right?
Well, you can. And I think that there are certain instances when a person has to concentrate on something. For example, if you're really, really nervous and you go on stage, like I was for my audition at La Scala in the beginning, I threw up, my nose was bleeding. I mean, it was affecting my body.
Yeah.
I finally had to say to myself, breathe, it's going to be okay. You can ace this. You can. Quit getting in your way. So my breath, I had to think about my breath. I had to think about relaxing my shoulders and my hip, which everything started to tense up. I had to think quite technically in that moment, to open up the back of my throat, to open my eyes, to create a safe space for myself on stage. And then lastly, which I guess should have been first, to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And show them what I knew I had to show.
Yeah. And would you say in moments like that, there is a safety net, like you have a little bit of margin of error that you practice in, so that in these moments you can go out and you can still deliver your A game, even if you're not feeling 100%?
I have to be honest with you, I never thought that. It was either all or nothing for me.
Okay.
If I went out on stage, I had to be 1,000%, prepared.
Yes.
I just had to be I had to give it everything. Now, I do remember one time going out on stage. This was in like maybe 7, 8 years ago. Or maybe even, I have no concept of time. So it could have been like, for all I know, 15 years ago. But it feels like it was more recent. At the Concertgebouw.
Mm-hmm.
And the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam is a very prestigious place, as you know, to sing. And I was giving a recital. And I knew the minute I opened my mouth that it was going to be horrible. You know, I mean, the first sound came out and I thought, what am I going to do? Of course, all of this you think everybody sees and you think it takes, 5 minutes and you're standing there and no, nobody sees it. It's like a split second. All of this happens in your head. And in that split second, I made a decision. I am not going to worry about what comes out of my mouth. I am going to entertain these people the best way I can and try to enjoy it and really, really bring this text out and bring this music out the best way I can in this particular moment.
Yeah.
And afterwards, of course, that was the recital where it was, tons of media and on a big screen and on the radio and, tons of people there, tons of critics, and even the critics afterwards said, well, maybe she wasn't in her best vocal state, but wow, what a performance. Yeah. And I got standing ovation upon standing ovation. Amazing. So see those are the moments that teach us that it doesn't matter what you do, your technique can be absolutely perfect, but let's just say it's an off day, and you open your mouth and it's just not there. What do? You make a decision.
I love that.
Hopefully a good one.
Yeah, hopefully a good one, right? There's several ways that can go.
Yes,
you made the right choice. Well,
I mean, I have a million things. I think that's why in my book, Una Voce, that you spoke about, I think that's why people like it so much, the young singers, because they see all these disasters. I talk about all these disasters that I had, and yet still I had a great career, and I'm still having a great career, so I can't really complain. I mean, like the time I gave another recital, and the heel on my shoe broke. And I just broke my shoes off. I have never been so comfortable on stage in my life. It was a dream. And that same recital, the belt on my gown broke.
Oh
so
gosh.
I took that off, and at that point, what can you do? You're just stumped, So I said to all the men in the audience, I want you to do me a favor, loosen your ties and take off your coats. And everybody was laughing. We had the best time. It was one of the best recitals I've ever given, of course, because I didn't have to wear high heels.
Right, exactly. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I'd love to take us now to how you think about breathing. What is your process of inhalation and then managing the exhalation or the singing? How do you feel that in your body, and what is your process?
I'll tell you, I think also that when you get stuck, like we were just talking about, let's make a little tiny segue between those two things, because when I was stuck, I had to teach myself to breathe, and not just breathe, but breathe deeply in a certain way. And that meant in through the nose, out through the mouth. And every time I would do that, I would tell myself to relax the shoulders, relax the muscles. I do that with my singers as well. With my students, I'll see that they're a little frustrated because they're trying to get that perfect high note, and we'll stop, we'll laugh. I'll say, and let's just relax a little bit. Let the pelvic area, just expand a little bit, don't sit up like you're doing your Kegel exercises, and let everything just relax. Okay, so you do that, and you get the heartbeat down a little bit, and breathing for me is something that doesn't happen here, like that, like my little puppy Buffy, with the like that, it doesn't happen right there. I can't sing if I do that.
Yeah.
During an aria. But even if I only have a moment, I will take a great breath, but the breath will always be in character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when you breathe in, you try to breathe in through the nose, even if it's quick?
Not always.
No, not
Not
always.
always. You don't remember to do
Okay.
that. You breathe naturally. But you have to make sure that you get a really good deep breath so that you can support everything that needs to be supported, especially if you have things in coloratura like triplets.
Mm-hmm.
They take a lot.
Yeah.
Triplets do. We all have a tendency to want to put like a tiny accent on the first one, which makes everything then oily afterwards, meaning that it runs really smoothly. And that's the way to do it a lot of times. But, or we feel it on the offbeat, which is good too. But if you do that, you tend to expel too much air. So you do have to be careful about that. I remember I asked the first trombone player, Ardash Martirosyan, I think is his name, of the Chicago Symphony, about this trombone bag that he would breathe into to enhance the breath that he had, or teach him how to breathe better or deeper. And he gave me one. And I remember using that bag and trying to really enhance my breathing. And the reason I did it is because of Rockwell Blake, the incredible Racine tenor, who I sang a million things with. He could do a phrase that was 10 measures long and never take a breath.
Wow, yeah.
And he would very nicely, as a colleague, take one when I needed it, but the guy never needed to breathe. So I thought, I have got to figure this out. Yeah. You know, and using this bag and breathing into it, I think it was just the idea of really filling up the lungs, which we don't do. And just think about this. If you sit down to have a pedicure, for example, or something like that, and they all of a sudden touch your feet and you go, oh, then you realize, oh my God, I haven't really taken a good deep breath all day long.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't realize we're not breathing correctly, or we're not breathing the way we really should in order to get oxygen to our brains and support a long line of singing.
Yeah, so I'm actually hearing you say this, and I'm thinking about something I've had a discussion with actually a personal trainer about this breathing. And he says, you know, singers tend to breathe abdominally, but then they're not getting the maximum kind of air expansion into their lungs. Is that sort of what you're talking about a little bit with?
Well, I think we are like athletes in a way, and we do need to explore what works for our bodies and what makes us feel relaxed and what helps us as we're singing. So I guess what I'm talking about is doing some exercises which can help the rib cage open.
Okay.
And let the shoulder blades come apart, you know, and just really expand, not only standing there and thinking of breathing from your stomach, right, but really thinking about expanding your rib cage. I mean, and if you're doing it right, if you're really young and your mom has to make your clothes, you know, she's going to comment on that like mine did.
You know, this reminds me of a story, actually. I came home from college, like, you know, first semester, then the next semester, and my mom had been altering a dress for me. And by the time I got home that night, she couldn't, like, I hadn't gained any weight. She couldn't get it around the rib cage.
Yep, that's what my mom said too.
Yeah, that's funny.
Sure, there are a lot of senior moms like that have had to use for us.
Oh, that's, yes, certainly true. When you were talking about the shoulder blades, and you said, you know, coming apart, do you mean like coming apart this way, or do you mean kind of like down and back?
I do exercise to where I put this and then I push forward as you breathe.
Oh, yeah.
And out. So then you can really feel, but you're standing, of course, with one leg in front and then the other one that's slightly bent. People might know that. And then you push forward. And it feels like the shoulder blades really come that way.
That
It's
like a part.
yeah, it's like, and you feel, oh, it's a wonderful thing. It
Yes.
touches everything, and then you feel really ready to jump into whatever song or aria you need.
That's awesome. So when you breathe, do you think about the lower rib cage at all or the lower abdomen or no? Do you just sort of let it be natural?
I mostly let it be natural because if I try to start manipulating where I'm breathing,
Yeah.
that doesn't work for me. It might work for you. It might work for somebody else too. But
Yeah.
for me, I start tensing up.
Yeah. And then when you start to sing, do you engage anything or do you think about anything? How is that process of beginning the
Yeah.
tone?
I always um, think about engaging my entire body.
Hmm.
When I was doing all the coloratura things, my feet hurt a lot because
Oh,
I relaxed. If you want to look on YouTube when I'm singing non più mesta, you see that when I go up to the high C sharps, da, da, di, 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 in the real cabaletta part of it,
hmm.
you can see me visibly relax everything. Then all the tension would go down to my knees and my feet. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. Maybe I should look into that and see why. Great to know. But I would relax the shoulders and my pelvis, my hips, everything. But then I would almost like want to feel the solidity of the floor
Yeah.
beneath me. So I would push almost with the balls of my feet.
Yes, I can understand that. I can
Yeah,
kind of feel that as you're talking about that. Yeah. So it's almost like the tension sort of moves down and then grounds you.
exactly.
Hmm.
But that's only for me. And
Yeah.
I'm always a person that when I teach, I say walk it forward or use your body or don't sit on,
Yeah.
all of technology, all of the words that I use.
Yeah.
This is jet lag. I'm talking to you from Seoul, South Korea now. Anyway, all of the words that I use are physical, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
like don't sit on that note. Don't
Right.
don't or cooking. Let the souffle fall. I say a lot. But that sort of thing. So
So,
I think that it's interesting to think about. Yeah, your body is where your instrument is. So use that body. Let that
yeah.
body be engaged.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't tense it up and think that you're only singing from here up, because
Right.
that's when you get into trouble.
Lots of trouble. Lots of trouble.
Yeah.
That's true. Now, you are like an amazing coloratura technician. It's unbelievable. So, do you have any special tools for sort of developing and cultivating coloratura into somebody's sort of technical language, or was that sort of a natural thing for you?
It was a
Coloratura?
natural
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
from the beginning.
Okay.
But I've always been a person who felt pulse, and I think more importantly, I always felt the offbeat. My mother
Okay.
told me that when I was basically a baby,
Hmm.
and she would put me in front of the television and the Looney Tunes thing, bum, 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 bum. I would sit there and I would do the she said it was perfectly on beat,
Wow.
and she couldn't believe a baby
Yeah.
could do an offbeat like that.
Yeah.
But that was just natural in my blood and in my bones, just feeling
Hmm.
as babies do.
Yes.
Babies feel that. You can see it. They'll get up and they'll dance with
Yeah.
abandon, and
Yeah.
some with pretty good rhythm. So I always had a really good rhythm, and I think that helped me a lot when I was doing
Yeah.
coloratura.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just feeling the first accent on the first beat, I felt the pulse,
Uh-huh.
the accent, and the offbeat as well, which
Yeah.
helped spur the coloratura line onward, and
Hmm.
not just sitting on everything. And I also realized, yeah, I sing every note. Sure, I sing every note, but not every note is exactly the same.
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And also,
Totally.
when you would do coloratura that would go up to a high note,
Mhm.
I had to learn the high note is a part of everything. For a mezzo, when you say high note, we go, ah, and that's when we start to tense up. And that's when, if you're doing coloratura up to a high note, the coloratura, if you notice, starts to get really heavy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because in a mezzo mind, we're thinking, I have to control
Yeah.
this. I have to control it, which means then what can happen is everything starts to happen here at the front of the lip,
Mhm.
and you don't stay in the right position in your mouth for an ah vowel or an e vowel or an eh or whatever word you're saying
Mhm.
on coloratura. Then everything, and then when it starts to come onto the front of the lips, then you're dead.
Okay. Is that like because it's coming into the mouth instead of being on the breath? Or,
Yeah, because
yeah.
look what happens when you start singing anything, a vowel.
Uh-huh.
If a lot of people like to take the e vowel and sing
Oh,
like
yeah.
that because they find that easier.
Yeah.
But look what happens. The chin comes
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
The mouth is here, and the natural pure vowel is
Right.
e. If you keep your chin down a tiny bit,
Yeah.
and you make that in the back of your throat, like eh, e, ah, oh, ooh.
Mhm.
You hear that? I'm not going eh, e, ah, oh, ooh, like
Right.
that,
Right.
and making all these weird facial
No.
expressions, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it works. You can manipulate it, but it's not real.
Yeah.
It's not true singing. It's it's manipulated singing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I hate to see it, and because it's an easy thing to fix, you know, that it's a bad habit that people get into.
Yeah.
But I always say that's okay because habits can be broken.
That's true.
You just need the knowledge to break them. You need the willpower. You need the real um, desire to
Yeah.
change, and that's how you break these habits.
Yeah, for sure.
But coloratura in itself, it can be a very natural thing
Mhm.
if you're relaxed enough to do it. Now, if you want to manipulate it, there are certain things you can do. You can start out very, very slowly with a passage, and don't think of the passage as a very, very long phrase. Break it up
Yeah.
into small little boxes. Work on that first. See how that feels. See how to produce it. You know, it would be like if you were doing, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how am I going to make that comfortable, and then how am I going to make the next one comfortable, and then you put those two comfortable things together,
Right.
you know. And then there are springboards inside. There
Mhm.
are imperceptible little accelandos that the audience doesn't hear,
Mhm.
but which makes the difference between somebody saying, "Oh, that was really nice," or "What?" You know, animal guttural sounds at the
Totally.
end of an aria.
Yes. Right.
Yeah,
That's true.
there's a lot of stuff that goes inside of learning how to sing coloratura.
Yeah, and if you're, what about if you have a passage that's like going through a register transition, especially in that lower passaggio? 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
that tends to be a tricky area, especially when dealing with coloratura, like
Yeah,
something that has to go down, then back up. How do you manage that?
I think for anyone, the the width of the vowel is very, very important
Okay.
because if, well, take a soprano, for example, if she's going down in
Hmm.
her range, it's so much easier for her normally
Hmm.
if she can zero in on the vowel, the pure vowel, and make it a little bit smaller and not open it up to like,
Yeah.
if it's an E,
Hmm.
not to open it up to a, like she comes down, like, no,
Right.
You're going to get, first of all, it's going to go straight to the front of the lip,
Yeah.
and you're going to look like you're speaking French all the time.
Yeah.
And there's going to be too much air around the sound. It's not going to sound like her natural core voice either.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's also going to be heavier and harder to move on from there.
Yes.
So if you make the vowel really, really smaller,
Hmm.
each person will have their own small vowel.
Right.
Like each person has their own pianissimo. Not every pianissimo is the same either.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
what,
true.
what I can do as a pianissimo is not the same as what you can do. It's different.
Yeah.
And it's also rooted in emotion as well.
Totally.
Yeah, but for coloratura, if we're going down in your range and going through a tessitura shift, it's something that I think is easier to control with a smaller vowel.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And in relationship to that, in relationship to navigating coloratura throughout the voice, that I think that's intimately linked to balancing registration throughout the voice. How do you view registration? Do you tend to think of? I mean, I know that we have transitions to deal with, but do you like to think as the voice is one register, or do you feel it in different parts, and what are those different parts, and where do you feel the resonation?
Well, I have been known to use the terms higher voice, middle voice, chest, things like that. Of course, we all know the difference between these things.
Yeah.
Okay, we use these terms all the time, but I normally will think of it, and this may frustrate a real technician, but I normally will think of it as, what emotional part of my voice am I going into? Not particularly, now I'm going through my passaggio to my, to the higher part of my voice. I'm like, if an aria, if the shoe fits, and this aria feels good, I don't want to muddy the waters by thinking of how I have to shift into another register to get what I need. Now, if I'm teaching someone, if it's a mezzo doing, Charlotte, va laisser mes larmes, for example, you have some leaps in that, or Mozart is well known for that. Yeah. Then, of course, I'm going to help that person get what they need to go from a low register to a high register. But as far as I am concerned, and your specific question about what I think about, no, I don't think about shifting from one register to the next. I think that is something that you learn early on. Yeah. Or you should. Because once you have your technique in place, you need not to think of these things. You really do. I mean, that's my humble opinion. So, and I always tell my singers, if I say something that doesn't work for you personally, you throw it out the window, and we'll try something else that works for you. Yeah.
Do you think that there were different parts, if you look back at how your voice, back when you first started singing, versus maybe after college training and then early career, were there parts of your development that you felt you had to adjust the registration or the resonance, or the voice grew and you had to sort of navigate it differently?
I think that there came a time when I realized that flipping up into my high extension became not a technical thing anymore, but a natural thing, because the technique was understood so completely. Before that, I didn't really understand how to do it. And I just did it, but didn't really understand it. Yes. And then when I realized what I did to flip up into that, and how I thought high and cheekbones, and then I let this go, the hinges here would come so open, or I felt like they did, maybe not, maybe they don't, but I feel that at least my jaw, which had always clicked, always, entire life, it was open, and I was not going like this, reaching for a high note, but I was opening for a high note.
Yeah.
Now, think about this. When you're a baby, your mother says, or when you're little child, you have food in front of you, okay? And you have a fork. And your mom is trying to teach you, saying, here, now here's the fork, open your mouth, here it comes. Now you try it, and you take the fork and you try and you learn the technique of eating with a fork. Okay? Now, do you think about that technique every time you pick up a fork? No.
No.
It's part of you.
Right.
Absolutely. Learned it. You don't need to think about it.
Yeah. Learned it and it's
same with our technique. Of course, every so often, maybe we need to go back and have ourselves reminded, by a good teacher or a good pair of ears around us. But I don't think it's something that we have to think about for too long once we've mastered it. Right.
Okay. Unless there are, I guess, significant changes like you were talking about.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a woman going through menopause. I mean, that's enough or divorce, or, I changed everything about myself. I reinvented myself at least 5 times, me and Madonna, And if anybody remembers, Madonna.
Oh,
but anyway, well, I would think they would, but you never know. But you go through a million changes.
Yeah.
It's not like you just have this instrument that you can take out of your body and, put in a little box somewhere while you go out and go through all this or go out and party.
Don't we wish?
Don't we wish? Yeah, I think we do.
Yes.
From time to time. But it's really, it's us.
Right.
It's a part of us. We don't see it. We imagine it, and we see it when we go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor. If there's something wrong, then he'll stick the thing down and take an x-ray and then put it up there, and you can see your little vocal cords.
Yeah.
But really, this is a phenomenon. We don't see what's creating our lives for us, around, and what helps us make these decisions about life every single day.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that amazing?
It's completely amazing. Yeah. Something that fascinated me that you said really early on in our discussion, you were talking about how you had learned these things as you had been singing, and now you use this in your teaching, and it's about how people manipulate the face and the tongue, and distinct for them, for their body. Can you talk a little bit more about that, because that's really interesting?
Well, each person has their own physiology. It's a different bone structure and the shape of mouth, and also they have different brains, the way they think about things. So for me, I will always look at the person and say, okay, when they're forming an ah vowel, what do they do? What are they doing with their mouth? And some people will find it easier to go all. And I try to help them realize that all is not probably the best thing for an ah vowel, because ah, by its nature, is an open vowel. All is a closed one. You can feel your throat close.
Right.
If you do a real all, you feel that, and you feel the tongue in a certain position. But an ah is open.
Yeah.
You remember Pavarotti, how he had this big head and this skinny little mouth that would, barely open, but all this incredible sound would come out?
Yes.
Well, that's because he knew, naturally, this is a natural singer, he knew naturally that it's all made in the back of the throat. And I wish I had something better to say than back of the throat. That sounds like I want everybody to, tense up. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's just a real feeling of opening when you do a good ah vowel. And my husband is Italian, Davide. And when he does an ah, I'll say, Davide, say ah for me. And he'll go, ah, like that. And he's got this big head, and it's like that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, I'm never going to go for an ah vowel.
Yeah.
But that's what he does. Pure Italian ah, open. Yes. Okay, so when you have, let's take a soprano singing Queen of the Night, okay?
Yeah.
She gets to the coloratura part and comes to the triplets.
Yeah.
The da, da,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So then she's going from a really high point, I mean really high, down to a low part of her voice.
Yes.
Okay, when she's doing the triplets. Now we know that triplets are hard to begin with. They take a lot of energy if you're doing them wrong. If you're doing them right, they don't.
Yes.
Wrong is trying to sing every single triplet note at the same intensity.
Yeah.
When it needs to be more of a yada
Yeah.
or a yada instead of a da da da,
Yeah.
like that. That then makes it really hard, and then everything stiffens up. And you can see a lot of sopranos will get there and they'll be going, really doing well on the high, and then when they're starting down, then you see the mouth change. They don't keep that same natural open position. Everything should be the exact same position, but you see them going, oh, you know, and it's like, whoa, hold on there, partner. You don't want to do that to yourself.
Yeah.
So if they just try to find the opening that is fluid and flexible for them,
Yeah.
and keep that, and then maybe not push the voice when they get down to the lower part, but just let it go easily in the, like a mezzo forte, not a forte.
Right.
Then it's lighter, and then they don't then take all that weight again up with them,
Yeah.
because there's a little bit more to sing after that.
Yes, a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And those staccato, those are often the hardest. I've heard, I don't sing that, but I've heard friends say.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to stay light and easy,
Yeah.
and not forcing it. So that position is very, very important.
And do you think that that is kind of, you know, if people are darkening towards the bottom, do you feel like maybe there is some, I guess, learning curve, let's say learning curve, that if they go to this more open vowel, that maybe they'll sort of misfire and the notes won't be quite as accurate, but over time that will get in there because maybe there's some sort of muscle habits in the intrinsic muscles that we sort of can't see, that they have to learn how to do their job properly?
Yes, exactly. Now,
Okay.
there's a very important word, and it is exploration. Each singer has to explore how open they can go. Now, the other thing is, when you're going down in the voice like that, and we're just talking about women now, we need to talk a little bit for the men, I think, as well, but let's just stick with our soprano, okay? If she's going to, our queen of the night, if she's going to go down there, she doesn't want to open the mouth position a lot, okay? She wants to stay in a good open place, but let's just say she wants to do an ah down there, which she is doing, obviously, in that moment. She still needs to keep it in the same position as when it's high, but just a tiny bit more closed.
Okay.
So that she can control it. Now this
Like
also depends. Yeah. And also we have our exterior vowels, we have our interior vowels. What if E is a really good controlled vowel for her? I would tell her, think of an E, don't sing an E, but
Right.
think of it. And then that immediately puts everything where it needs to go in that part of the voice.
Yes, yes. And so, okay, so that is sort of the method going down to keep that resonance. What about, is there anything tricky going up, like into the high notes? Let's talk about that, right? So you were saying earlier that you sort of knew what to do naturally, and then you learned why you knew what to do. And you were talking about opening. Now, in terms of vowels, like we've just been talking about, does anything have to change going up there?
Sometimes a person needs to modify a vowel.
Yeah.
It depends on that person. Again, I know I don't mean to be evasive in any way, but I'm saying it really does depend on the person. What they feel as they go up, the position of the jaw, the mouth position of the vowel, an ah or an e, you know,
Yeah.
it when you also it has to do with the way you think of high notes.
Okay.
So many people think that high notes are separate from everything else. And just the fact that we're saying high notes makes them separate. Okay. But people tend to forget that high notes are a part of the aria. They're a part of, they're not the climax and the end all, end all, you know, it's a part of the aria. So if you think of it as a turn in the bend, you know, instead of you go up and you stop and there's a high note and you have to re-articulate it. No, make it a part of the whole thing. So then it flows easily. It's more fluid. It sounds like it's a part of the aria instead of sitting on its own. Yeah. Unless, of course, there's one where you just have to hit the ah or whatever the thing is in a cadenza. Yeah. You know, like a lot of people have to do. Right. And, you know,
pull it out of thin air.
And the like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you have to know how open it needs to be, what your throat is doing, what position works for you. And then if you have to modify that vowel.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think? What works for you in terms of thinking about that?
Well, for me, it's a matter of, sometimes if you saw me rehearsing, you would laugh because I'll go, you know, trying to find exactly the right place for it, you know? And I can't really sing in here because I'm in a building where people don't want you to make noise. Be careful. But for me, it's a thing of, I know how to open that. I just need to make sure I find exactly the right opening.
Yeah. And is that vowel for you, or do you think of more kinesthetic shape? What do you?
I think of the shape, but it's the vowel. Everything is the vowels for me because I really, really believe it doesn't matter what language you're singing in. If the vowel is, if the length of the vowel is right, then you'll be understood.
Yes.
If you try to, it's funny because, you know, for years we are told by conductors and everybody, spit those words out, text, you know, I mean, they're constantly screaming at us, but they forget one important thing. How do we do that? They don't tell you how.
No.
You know, and so we start to overpronounce, and then everything is distorted.
Yeah.
But if the length of the vowel is correct, that's all we need to know. Long vowels, short consonants.
Short and light, right? Do you think
light?
Yeah.
It's like tap that consonant.
Yeah.
You know?
And
even if it's a double consonant.
Yeah, right, exactly. Is that something that you had to work on at all? Articulation?
It's something that I came to very much later in life. I have to be honest, I wish I'd had somebody telling me all this earlier on, but they didn't. So I'm telling everybody I can think of, you know. I'm writing it in books. I'm telling it on podcasts, you know, as much as I can. These things that I finally found out. I'm 62 years old and I just found them out like in the last couple of years, you know. It would have made life a lot easier had I had somebody like you who, you know, does these technical talks, you know, and had I been able to hear those things.
Because you know, you wonder, like, being from Georgia, right, and having a slight Southern accent, you know, you wonder, does that play into how you have just a little? I mean, not so much now, but I'm sure, right? Like, did you have to work with that a little bit?
You wouldn't believe how much fun people had making fun of me. It's funny because when you sing, it's totally different than when you talk.
Totally, yes.
Pronunciation and in French, and a lot of young singers also believe that when you are singing in French, you have to keep all this pure nasal stuff the higher you get. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No way, you can't.
No.
You know, so yeah, for me, it was something that I had to learn to curb
Yes.
the natural tendency to put diphthongs into every single word.
Right, right. Yeah, that's absolutely a common thing, especially growing up in America. That's something that we have to work on. That
They
our
love to get you on the R's.
Oh yes, the
Hmm.
R's and even the pure vowel sounds, right? Like Italians and Spanish speaking people, they have it easy because it's all kind of right there, but all of our various accents, we have to work for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we really do. Now, you just said something that is very important. Americans
Mhm.
are held to a different standard.
Mhm.
We come over to Europe and are expected to do everything perfectly.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's why I was telling a lot of young singers during this hard period in this very surreal time that we're all going through here in 2020. I was telling a lot of them, take this time to perfect, or I shouldn't say perfect, but to take this time to learn more languages.
Yeah.
Every day I'm studying Korean because I'm
Oh
here
wow.
to teach at the Music College of Seoul National University. So I
Amazing.
want to be able to speak their gorgeous melodic language. It's
Mhm.
incredible. It's really beautiful with a lot of vowels
Yeah.
that are pure,
Mhm.
and they have fantastic singers here.
Yeah.
But um, it's it's something that in this time and also the time in between college and career,
Mhm.
that's the time you really feel like you're in an abyss or you're about to fall
Yeah.
into one because you don't know what to do. So I
Right.
would say, get your technique going, uh, get your mind in gear, get all of your stuff that you need to do auditions, your aria package, everything really ready to go,
Yeah.
and use this time wisely.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's really good advice, especially with the languages. That's so important.
Yes, it
Sooner
is.
they can do that, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I have one last question for you before I ask you to share some information with us. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because I didn't reveal this question to you beforehand. But I'd love, so I ask everybody to let me know their desert island vocalise. And this is something that you are going to use if you have to warm up in 5 minutes or less. And
Mhm.
it's like your go to that you can't do without.
Mhm. Okay. Well, mine will always be something in the character
Okay?
that I'm singing. I always warm up all of my students in character.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they're going to sing that day, we warm up whatever they want to do, but in that character with running the gamut of emotions. And you wouldn't believe how fast it marries the mind, the body, character, voice. Everything comes together 10 times faster. Try it. You'll love it.
Wow.
And everybody watching this, please try it. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. So for me,
That's awesome.
I'll usually start, I can't do it for you here in this apartment, but I'll start on like an E or an R or
Okay.
whatever vowel feels good that morning. And I'll just go like, ah, and I'll be happy or sad or, but I will never just stand and sing technically,
Okay.
doing this thing and looking
Yeah.
for perfection and thinking of my technique. I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That takes too much time for me
Yeah.
because then I have to bring in the character, which doesn't feel organic then.
Yeah. Right.
And then I have to bring in my thoughts. No, get it all there to begin with.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's great. It
I
works.
honestly haven't heard that before. That's brilliant.
You know what?
Yeah.
Nobody's heard it before. And if they've heard it, it's because I told them. But it's the thing that I do with every one of my students. And I then don't have to fight for 10 minutes to get their minds in gear. And then,
Yes.
or somebody, you've heard people talk about, well, it took them a while to warm up on stage.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You
That's
read that all the time.
Yeah, that's because they don't know how to warm up in character.
Right.
It wouldn't have taken anybody any time
Yep.
if they would warm up in character. So take
Such a good point.
whatever vocalise you want, whatever feels good to you at that moment.
Mhm.
Okay, whatever vowel you want. Do an arpeggio, do whatever you want, a scale, but do it in that character and do all of their emotions. And the higher you get, you're surprised.
Yeah.
So that everything opens.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I am going to try that.
I
Let me know
hope
how that
you
goes.
do.
That's awesome. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit about your book now, because I'm getting this. Yes. Una voce.
Yes. The drama in opera, both on stage and off.
Ooh. That's
Everybody
enticing.
thought it was going to be a tell-all, but I would never do that. And I could have some stories to tell, let me tell you. No, the book is mostly, there are, how many, 31 chapters? There's a chapter, the first chapter is called A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Singer. It tells about how I lied through my teeth on every resume that I ever put out there. Because I didn't have anything at that time. So I was just starting, so I just lied. You can't do that now.
No.
Not with the internet. They
Right.
keep on.
Exactly.
There's, well, I'll just tell you what the content. There's a chapter on identity, on strength, on hindsight, on fear, on jealousy, on sabotage. There's one on rave or behave, meaning do you be the diva and create a big scene, or do you just behave? There's one on collateral damage, which means the people around us or the dreams that we had that get crushed along the way. There's one about defending yourself, self-defense.
Wow.
One about pushing through when you know you just don't have the feeling that you can. There's one about the casting couch and sexual harassment. There's one about opinions, about listening. And the last one, is it death and taxes? No. There's one about death and taxes. There's one about blogging and things like that, the things that people say on these things. There's a chapter on thinking before you speak, what comes out of your mouth. The abyss, like we were talking about before. And what do you really want your identity to be? There's one on smart business.
Wow.
There are certain steps that a person can take to go up the ladder. There's one on stress, about homesickness, reinvention, tunnel vision, relevance, going towards thinking about when your career will no longer be, about being away from home and losing people and never being with your family, loss, and evolution, about the process that we all go through to come to different points in our life.
This book sounds like it is probably a lot of you in the book, but it sounds like it's really a special self-help guide for singers.
Yeah, it basically is. I have one girl who says it's her Bible and she carries it everywhere, which is very humbling.
Yeah.
Very humbling.
Sounds amazing. I'm getting it. Is it available on Kindle as well, or is it like download? Oh, fantastic.
In fact, I think it is.
Everybody, we're putting information here, so get it. This book.
Well, the thing about this book is, like I told you, there is a lot of stuff in there. It's not an autobiography, but there's a lot of stuff in there because when I first wrote it, the people that read it said, "No, we want to know more about what you did." So yeah, I didn't hold back anything. Yeah. There are a lot of stories about horrible things that happened to me during my career and things that could have ended it, but then what happened? You know?
That's
A person,
amazing.
well, a person can only speak from their own personal experience. So
Right.
that's what it's
Of
about.
course. Of course. And now, in addition to performing, which you have your two debuts coming up, right? This in the 2021, we're crossing our fingers.
Yes,
2021.
exactly. That's all we can do these days is cross our fingers and just be flexible. My two words now are flexibility and fluidity.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And so you teach, and you're teaching in Seoul, but do you also accept private students?
Oh, I've been teaching private students for over 25 years now.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
it's just something that nowadays I do it online a
Hmm.
lot because I have a student in Moscow, one in Malta, another one in Phoenix, another one in Florida, somebody, in France. I do a ton of master classes, which I love and fits into my performing schedule really well.
Right.
But of course, I'm looking forward actually to stepping into my future. And that's what this teaching at Seoul University, Seoul National University is for me. When I was
That's
taking the
awesome.
plane over, I was thinking, wow, this is really a step into my future as a teacher.
Yeah, that's
More
wonderful.
and more, and I love it.
Yeah. And where can we find you online? Are you
You
on,
mean my website?
yeah, your website, social media? Are
Oh
you
yeah, I got off of Facebook.
You did. Okay.
I had to.
Good
I
for
had
you.
to. Well, the problem with me is that if a young singer writes me, I have got to write them back immediately.
Yes.
I had to write everyone back, and there were like a million, right? And I couldn't, and I felt so bad because I couldn't write everybody back. No
Yeah.
matter, I would have had to start at 7 o'clock in the morning and just sat there writing. So I just couldn't do it. And I'm sorry to all of you young singers out there that wanted to get in touch with me, but it just was not possible.
Yes.
So I got off of Facebook for that reason, and also because Facebook made me sad. I mean, it became more about a lot of political opinions and
Hmm.
anger than it did
Hmm.
about really staying in connection with friends.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and time is precious, and I didn't want to
Right.
devote it to this kind of forum.
Right.
I'm on
Right.
Instagram.
Okay.
I have a website, jenniferlarmore.net.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's it.
Good for you. That's really brave to go off of Facebook. It's taking a stand
Yeah,
right there.
I had to do it
Yeah. Oh,
for
I can
my own
understand
peace
that.
of mind.
Well, Jennifer, it has been such like an absolute honor and pleasure to have you here. You are
Thank
one of
you.
my idols from forever and ever. So,
It kills me when people say that. You're so sweet, and I'm very humbled and honored to be an idol or a former idol.
no, not former. Although I really wished I was a mezzo. I was just praying that I would be a mezzo, and I just wasn't meant to be. But I think I told you this, but I went to Westminster Choir College as well.
Oh,
And
yay.
and the reason was because you were a graduate of
Oh,
Westminster. And my
oh,
audition songs were the Leather Winged Bat was one of them,
I
and
love
He's Gone Away. The Peggy settings.
JK.
Yes.
One of our real fantastic treasures, our composers, and good friends, dear friends.
He's magnificent.
Well, thank you for telling me this. It's lovely to know.
Well,
Oh,
thank you.
there is one last thing.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to tell a
Yeah.
lot of young singers to check my website for these master classes coming up
Oh,
in
good.
Lausanne at the Sion Academy in January 21, we hope, at
Yes.
the École Normale in Paris, and
Okay.
at the Eva Lind Academy of Music Tirol
Oh,
in
nice.
the Tiroler Attendee. And that's in August, so the end of August, beginning of September. So,
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I will put the links there so everybody can find them.
Thank you, Julia. It was such a pleasure talking with you. Lots of fun. And I
You
know
too.
it's nighttime where you are, and it's morning time where I am. That's our
meeting
life
together.
at years, right?
You're in the future. This is crazy, right? How is it over there?
It's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. It was such a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Julia. And have a nice night.
Oh, you have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.